Hi everyone, this is Dr. Mike, host of the free iTunes podcast, Psychiatric Secrets Revealed with Dr. Mike, but that's not why I'm here today. This is another Saving Savvy episode. And in this episode, I ponder the question, will there be a Nikon DF Mark II when Nikon has its big announcements later this year? And will it be an improvement over the DF Mark I, which I think was unfortunately kind of a dog of a camera. Sorry if you have one. I have one. It was a mistake. In fact, I was so stoked about this camera and the way that it looked and the fact that it had that great sensor in it that I bought this camera as a pre-order. I never even put my hands on it. I was so convinced that it would just be this awesome camera, and I was wrong. And in fact, when I got it and I used it, it took me forever to even write a review or to do a YouTube review on it because I just was not that enthusiastic about it. Well, with all this news about Nikon coming out with new cameras and possibly coming out with the DF Mark II, I took it out again and I was using it around town taking some pictures, and it does take beautiful pictures. And it is a beautiful looking camera. And it is very well built for the most part. But it has some major flaws that just make it not a lot of fun. And I think for Nikon to go out and say it's the photographer's camera, those who want to take time to take pictures, that's just a spin on the ergonomics are bad and it's a pain to use. So why spin it that way to a photographer? I don't know. So what are some of the problems? Well, the controls. Now this has a lot of manual controls, and normally I would say that is fantastic. In fact, I love Fuji cameras, and I have a Panasonic, I think it's an LX100 that has more manual controls. I love having those controls available. But on this camera, they are so awkward to use that you don't want to use them. So for instance, to change the ISO, I've got to press this button and turn the knob. Well, how do I do that? Well, I guess I got to lean on my chest and use two hands and then do this, because I can't do that with one hand. You have this front control knob. Instead of having something that I can easily move, I have to use two fingers to control that too. The button, the D-pad on the back is way too small. It's really plasticky and cheap feeling. Why not make that a little bit bigger? These buttons are too flat. Why not make them a little more tactile? This ridge on the shutter release is about the same height as this very weird thing. You have to lift, by the way, you have to lift this, I don't know, you have to lift this up and turn this. It's like crazy, but the shutter release is about the same height. So if I'm wearing gloves or I'm doing something like that, like I was today, half the time I was pressing this instead of pressing that. Just bad, bad, bad design. Oh, here's another thing. By putting this little clip for the strap here, it's forever going over here. So I was missing shots because I had to move this out of the way. Just completely unnecessary, bad design. No one built a prototype. No one checked it out. They were so interested in keeping a certain design. Really? So you have this great, wonderful sensor, right? That its claim to fame is it works wonderfully well in low light, which is true. This has some of the best low light performance around. But they paired it with their entry-level focusing system, the focusing system that you have on the D600 series. Now, I have a D600 camera. I use it all the time. I accept the focus on it, but that's their entry-level camera. That is not this high-level camera. And so not only is it a relatively small amount of focus points and a small amount of cross-type sensors, it's also not very good in low light. Accept it on my cheaper camera, but I want something better on this flagship, super-duper, cool-looking camera. What are some other things I think they would need to change? Well, basically, I think you want USB 3. Maybe that wasn't available when this was built. I can't remember, but USB 3 would be nice. I think it would be nice to have an articulating screen and also a touch screen if you're going to go that route. Another thing that they disabled on this camera was video. Why? No idea. Again, maybe so it wouldn't compete with the flagship D5 or D4S cameras. But no video. Makes no sense. If you try to use live view, the autofocus is literally painful in a time where, you know, even when this camera came out, there was much better autofocus out there. So that would have to improve too. I think you only have a single SD card. I'm willing to put up with that. I mean, I know it's a smaller camera body, so I'll put up with that if that helps keep it differentiated from a pro level camera. But this door falls off. This door falls off. I mean, on this $3,000 camera, this door falls off. What's that all about? I think do I have anything else listed here? Oh, the grip. So this camera is completely out of balance. Now take a look at how shallow that grip is. Now this is only a 35 to 70 millimeter lens. This is not some giant telephoto lens, but it is uncomfortable to hold it because this grip is not deep enough. So that grip needs to be made deeper too. So my thought is, oh, also, I mean, things like, you have this crappy autofocus. Your frame rate is, if you're shooting continuously, is pretty slow. Why not make it a little bit faster when you could buy so many of their cheaper cameras that have faster frame rates, and this just doesn't have that. So I think if you look at some of those changes and you made them, you would have this awesome camera that would be an absolute classic, that would be beautiful to use, that people would go out and buy in droves because it looks so cool and it was so much fun to use. This camera looks so cool, it's simply not that much fun to use, and a little bit of extra low ISO performance that you get is diminished by the bad autofocus. And frankly, I think really, if I had to choose between my D600 and this camera, I think I would choose the D600, which is so much more functional, not nearly as cool looking, but so much more functional and has the same autofocus system. Or I'd go a step or two higher with one of the better full-frame DSLRs. So with that, that's what I think that we need to do to make a DF Mark II. You might have a different opinion. You might love this camera. If you do, please list it below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you like my channel, which is diverse, please subscribe. That would be awesome. If you like to get involved with some of the other stuff that I do a podcast called Psychiatric Secrets Revealed with my wife. You can find it on iTunes. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about me, you can check out my blog, drmikekuna.com, drmikekuna.com. This is a personal writing experiment where I'm actually trying to be a lot more open and honest with my feelings. I'm trying to break through some writing stuff so I can write a little more effectively. So if you want to learn more about me, do that. Anyways, take care, everyone. Bye-bye.